The next subject, in my opinion, is especially interesting, since we all understand client dialogues contain a multitude of important data, which is vital for management decision activity. We have to analyze it, process it, and the outcomes of these dialogues will be explored further by Alexander Demidov. Alexander, you have the floor. Alexander, please turn on your microphone. Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the floor. My name is Alexander Demidov from ABK. I'm the department head, and I represent Active Business Consulting, ABK brand. Now, let me tell you about AI method of different complexity used to mine client conversations for additional value. Now, our company is focused on voice scoring, on the voice speech recognition technologies, and also on operator bots development. This is a specter of our competency.
So let's have a look at what is voice scoring all about, for whom it might be useful, and who needs the voice scoring. For instance, the legislation obliges you to accumulate voice communication, or you have voice analytics in the company, and you want to get more of it than just quality control. Or another case, for instance, you carry out mass polls on the quality, or you make mass hiring. Each of the contacts has its value, and this value should be justified somehow. And from saved and accumulated contacts, you can retrieve additional value. So, how can we do it? What problems can be tackled through voice scoring? Actually, everywhere where there is communication client-operator, you can see elements of fraud. In a simple case, sometimes a client, a subscriber, might not understand, might not know that he is offering not reliable data. And even in these cases, you can try and catch this ambiguity. During a conversation with underwriter, a client might be sure that he would repay the debt, but actually he would face a default. And such cases can be caught through analysis of voice communication or mass hiring that is done through filling in questionnaires. You can assess whether your candidate is effective after a period of time. And this can also be defined using his initial interview. In general, everywhere where there is voice communication, assessment of truthfulness of such communication is the cornerstone, and it's very good to know the level of truthfulness of a communication. For us, voice scoring is a number of technologies allowing us to assess by characteristics of speech and the content of speech, assess the level of truthfulness and reliability of data the candidate is offering. So this is a number of metrics and models that were trained in the regime of free dialogue to assess the truthfulness of speech. Voice scoring can be split into a number of tasks, related tasks. First of all, data engineering. That's a routine, quite time-consuming, labor-consuming thing, but this is a basis. And NLP tasks, very creative thing, structuring models and selecting the best architectures and so on. And a separate point is detecting emotions. So a model that allows you to detect emotions and enrich textual and semantic content of voice, of speech. It allows you to retrieve additional factors and elements. These tasks can be resolved through instruments. The instruments are shown here, but this is not the full list. Yes, these are very good toolkits, time-tested in the industry, but we do not use only these instruments, but others as well. It is important what hardware you use to apply these instruments. And a source of data. Usually, clients have an amount of data accumulated that can be used for additional training or development of a model, and external sources can also be quite useful. External resources can also give you a lot. Let's go to examples using voice scoring in practice. First example, first case, where voice scoring comes from: system of optimization of debt collection. We are coming from debt collection, and the foundation of this, the basis of this project is based on the processes we started from scratch. Via the model for optimization of debt collection, this is a cascade of models that includes the truthfulness model. We can optimize the debt collection process, assessing the next best efficient step in interaction with the client: SMS or a voice message or an operator's call or a visit to a client. The most effective step is defined through methods of machine learning and allowed us to achieve cutting our costs 2 times. We increased efficiency through this model of collecting the debt 2 times. And this inspired us very much for next options of application of such approach. The model has quite significant discriminating capacity, 72% of GI, and we thought that this model, this approach, could be also applied across other tasks. What is the next task that we were tackling through voice scoring model that can go into the same family? We achieved significant results when we wanted to business client wanted to reduce the number of claims against the call center. Reducing the number of complaints means better user experience. For contact centers, this is one of the main efficiency indicators. Our solution technologically was as follows. We decided to integrate an indicator into the IRM operator. So at his workplace, he sees that the current communication potentially can provoke a complaint, and he sees a red light. If it doesn't happen, then the operator follows standard scenario. If he sees such indicator, he goes to a specialized scenario focused on mitigating the complaint. From the point of view of architecture, there is a draft architecture. It turned out that this model is consisting of several parts. We used neural networks and the random trees and TF-ADF model. All these models taken together, and yes, of course, emotion detection model. All these models taken together gave us an opportunity to have a Gini of 72% and get a 10% reduction of the number of complaints against the contact center. And for this example, for this case, instead of just detection, the methodological work was also very important. Methodological work is quite significant. It's not enough to highlight a complaint. It is important to know what to do with it or how to mitigate it online. And we have a large amount of work done in this area for this task. And we've analyzed the factors that impact the most And the most important factors are hidden in the speech. For this task, the speech is full of factors. Next case, a client, an HR service. HR service that hires for mass vacancies. Initially, the process on the client side was structured with the use of video interviews. How did process go on? So a couple of questions are asked and video interview is recorded, and as a result of this video interview, recruiter, a specialist from recruiting, could decide whether this person is okay for this position or not. And we see that sometimes, just having talked to a client, we realize that this reduces the funnel, narrows it, and we offer the client to change the process. Yes, it takes time, and we went through the first pilot. Now we are in the stage of the second pilot. And in the first pilot, just from voice, we were able to have a forecast of efficiency of an employee with Gini of 29%. The client gave us criteria of efficiency of employees, and this was our markup. And with this markup, we were able to rank the candidates. 29 Gini was the result. This is not a limit. We know that there is more potential to it, and we see an opportunity for widening the funnel through using an operator, robot operator, who can successfully ask questions that were just circulated among the candidates, and basing on the answers, we can cover more people, more candidates who want to work on such positions. Case number 4, fraud analytics or underwriters operations. A large department of a bank used voice scoring for the default forecast models to strengthen such models using the dialogues with the client. How can it be achieved? Our pilot showed that even a simple model, quite simple model, on a pool of words gives us a good Gini, 56% of Gini. Is it an achievement of the model or an underwriter who is very good in what he does? This is an open question and it requires more research, but from these dialogues we can get the signal. What does this 56% of Gini give us? When highlighting 10% of all communications of underwriters, we can see up to 50% of frauds. And this correlation in itself gives us a basis for widening this experience and possible robotization of this area and enhancement for research in this area. Yes, there is much potential in this area, and we plan to continue working in this direction and probably scale it up for several clients. Next example is increase of conversion or efficiency of telemarketing. What is this case all about? We have a client interested in carrying out telemarketing campaigns consisting of several stages. At the first stage, they try to find out whether the clients are ready to buy their product. Preliminary consent may be of different quality. To define how truthful this promise to buy a product after the first call can be done through our model. It is based on quite interesting architecture. This is LSTM, neural networks that allow us to make the assessment of the first call to define whether it makes sense to make the second call, the follow-up, in order to additionally motivate a person to buy, or you can save on this. Client wanted to save minutes and to avoid not very efficient follow-ups. Yes, the reduction was 3 to 5%, but since the first call is made by a robot, this is quite cheap anyway. And the client agreed that we would continue the calls, but the client then had an instrument that allowed him to carry out research and check their hypotheses on structuring the most effective scripts for the first call. So we were thinking of saving money, but created an instrument that allows us to assess how well the first scenario is worked on, the script for the conversation, and how much you can get from the first contact without going into the second one. That's the result for this case that we achieved. And going to conclusions, I can say how voice scoring can be applied in a company. So the most simple scheme is a robot operator plus voice scoring. I highlighted it already in a number of examples. Also, a voice scoring is very good for bringing it together with voice analytics. Having voice analytics in place to equip it with models of voice scoring is also a very good script, very good working scenario. We tested it on ourselves and a number of clients. Thank you. Our products are related to voice technologies proved to be very effective in the market. Our operator was awarded many times. Demo products, you can have a look at them on the website VS Robotics. If you're interested, then with the contact details on the slide, you can contact us. We will be happy to welcome you and contact you and discuss things and check and work together. Thank you very much, Alexander. A couple of questions from the audience. Colleagues ask how exactly you ensure security, safety of anonymous nature of the data you receive. The answer is quite straightforward. Where the legislation requires it, we are the operator, an operator of personal data, and we are going in line with Federal Law 152, protected channels and all that. We have a department ensuring the security requirements. How to provide that? If we're speaking about coming to us with your data for a pilot, we can depersonalize the data on the side of the client. This is a very straightforward method, and just keep the IDs instead of personal data. And depersonalization is even possible when transcribing. Inside the transcription process, such depersonalization can be performed, and the markup will go by IDs, not personal data. I think this is quite workable solution. And another question, quite interesting one. You mentioned using emotions. As far as I know, there are 6 emotions that you can detect in your product. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the same time, you say that the contribution is just 8% into the result. Are there any cases where emotions act as the main instrument? And does it make sense to use them at all? Because we understand that the technology is not very straightforward, and yes, it is very promising, but are there any cases where efficiency of emotions were much higher? And does it make sense to use them? Yes, we have a couple of models for 3 and 7 emotions. Yes, it makes sense to use it. And I can say that it's outside of the framework of my presentation. I mean, speaking about emotions, but there is a model for burnout of operators where emotional element is very significantly impacting. For instance, we can forecast how effective or how the operator feels like. Probably he started his day already burnt out or not. Also, the emotions model and the contribution I showed is conditioned by the case for searching for complaints. You know, a small insight about it, just to share this with the audience from the project. It turned out that those who would complain against contact center are usually very neutral in their communication, and saying that an emotion which is neutral according to our detection model might be an indicator for a complaint. No, usually no, but if they are talkable, if those who talk a lot, if they contact the operator, probably there is no negative words from him, but he might complain. Okay, fine. I can admit when you say thank you or well thank you, and no emotion, no vivid emotion detected, but complaint might follow. Thank you very much for your presentation.